Here we are driving from New York City up to Pleasant Valley, New York, which is where I grew up. Growing up between the river, the railroad, or this road, it connects a lot of my life. It's almost like you could pray on this road because it's so beautiful. When I was a little boy, about 5 years old, I would be at my grandmother's house and I would look out the back window and wave at the trains as they went by. And the engineer would always wave back. It was kind of the high point of the afternoon. You'd hear the train coming, you'd go racing back to the porch. It's wonderful that they have put this pedestrian walkway over the Hudson River. Everything in life seems to come back to this river. It's kind of very scriptural. It's a great way of connecting my present and the past and probably the future as well. So. My father owned a sheet metal workshop right here in Pleasant Valley. I worked here as a kid in high school in the summer times and college in the summer times. His shop shared the same parking lot with the town hall. While he had the shop, he was the supervisor of my small hometown of Pleasant Valley. All the time while he was supervisor, everyone would come in and talk to him, and he'd be always out here about some kind of town business. This is the church where I did all the rest of my sacraments. First communion, confirmation, my first mass was here. And it's really wild to have grown up in the pews and then find yourself behind the altar. So my dad built this house in 1969. It's 50 years old. My dad passed away 5 years ago, right around the time I was starting this job as president of the Paulist Fathers. My mom continues to live here, and it's just continues to be a great gathering place for my family and for my sister and I, and so many memories in this house.
I always remember the Christmases with Eric. He'd wake up early and we'd be downstairs, and he'd come running down the stairs. "Oh, I'm so excited! I'm so excited!"
My mother's family were all of Italian background, and so that just creates a family community and extended family and cousins, and life was more quiet because there wasn't a lot of kids in the neighborhood. There were a few. So I was kind of a solitary type kid growing up.
Eric was, a thoughtful, quiet, kind kid. I was always a talker at home, but more introverted everywhere else. And as Eric got older, I think he became probably more extroverted.
Something about the priesthood kind of brought out more of my, extroverted nature. But I can be pretty self-contained.
He's been a real good nephew to all of us, helpful to everybody. We worked at the Paulist Fr, and every year he would come and help serve hot dogs and hamburgers. I don't know if he liked it or not, but he satisfied his aunt.
He worked for a caterer and at a restaurant. He loved being with the people there that were the partiers, that were fun.
It was kind of a little Downton Abbey of the Italian variety at this catering restaurant. And I always challenge people to say that I've washed more dishes than anybody. I challenged a congregation once. Who thinks they've washed more dishes than me? And I went through. Like all families, we had, all kinds of different members of the family. Those who'd been married many years, those who got divorced a couple of times, or, LGBT family members. I mean, the variety of folks in my family is, I always say, a great lab for being a pastor, because there's all kinds of situations, and you start with the person and you start with love, and you go from there. The easiness of which, as a family, we welcome people. And I think that comes from both my dad, who was the local politician and a sheet metal worker, and my mom, the Italian, who hospitality is through cooking and welcoming people to the table.
Eric takes after his father in a lot of ways. The easygoing personality and loved people.
My dad was, parents raised him in a Protestant church, although I don't think they were hugely attending church.
Well, my husband wasn't Catholic, but he went to church every Sunday with us. We always went together as a family. And he didn't convert until Eric was ordained.
He stole the show, as I like to say. It was a great moment.
One day he just came home and said he wanted to be a priest.
It just came out one Sunday afternoon, and we were all happy and crying about it.
His character, his moral judgment, his sincerity, he's genuine. And knowing all of those traits, they fit very well into being a priest.
The day of Eric's ordination was extremely emotional. I remember taking pictures. I just shook because it was just so emotional. I think my uncle was extremely proud.
My father was very supportive of my becoming a Paulist.
His father became a Catholic for his son, right? I guess he had been going to night classes, without us knowing it, I think. I mean, I didn't know anything, but then I'm always the last to know everything.
Like the Hudson River, Central Park is part of my life. When I was a young film student at NYU, I did my best photography in Central Park. This is the great lawn of Central Park, and a number of times in my life, important things went on here. When I was in college, I was on the PA for the 100th anniversary of the Statue of Liberty, and there was a big Philharmonic concert that we staged. And then, when I was a young priest, I was here for my first papal mass with John Paul II. Now I bike through the park in the morning. It's kind of a morning prayer, if you will. Sometimes I'll stop, taken by an image, and take a picture. But most of all, I just come here to just get in touch with nature. One thing that's critical to being a Paulist is being able to appreciate the variety of people that you rub elbows with every day. And there's no better place to learn how to do that in New York City, whether you're on the subway or on the bus, walking in Central Park. I live here at the Mother House. Our general offices are here in this building that houses 25 other Paulist Fathers. So my current assignment of the Paulist Fathers is being the president of the community. And to me, that means being the pastor to the pastors. When I became president, I moved our general offices from the borough of Queens into New York City because the energy of New York City is so important to me, and it keeps me going, and it's so exciting. But even beyond that, it would be an opportunity to live in the Mother House next door to St. Paul the Apostle. Because every decision we make, whether it's personnel, administrative, property, it's all about mission. It's all about extending the vision of our founder, Father Isaac Hecker. This coming May, it'll be my 25th anniversary of ordination to the priesthood. But I first met the Paulist Fathers right here in New York City back in the mid-'80s when I was a film student at NYU. The campus minister knew I was interested in priesthood and interested in television, and he suggested I meet the Paulist Fathers.
The Paulist Fathers are the most friendly people I've ever met. They just warm up to them right away. They just seem to all be so happy when they're so interested in you and seeing you and make you feel comfortable.
It took a while before I would enter the community in 1989. I had a career working for Jim Henson and the Muppets that I loved, but I felt it was time for something different. I started off here in New York City as an associate at St. Paul the Apostle, our mother church. Then I went down to Knoxville, Tennessee to be a campus minister. From there, I went to Los Angeles to be president of Paulist Productions. And then from there, doing community service and administration as the president.
Years ago, if you became a priest, it was a big thing, and I think the role of a priest has become more difficult, and I certainly had some concerns about that, and still do. I still do worry about that. I think it's tough to be a priest today.
Being a religious superior today in the United States has been, challenging to say the least. And between the church scandal and other types of pressures, it's a difficult time to lead. And so I'm grateful to be living in a community of Paulists here in New York, so we can share the joys and the challenges of being in church at this time.
I know that in our family we've had in the past couple of years some serious illness and death, and Eric was here. His presence is easy. He's never imposing. It was really calming to the family, so I know what he can do for us, I know what he has done for others. I know he's always going all over because people want him for a baptism or a wedding. So it's obvious that he's made some strong connections with people.
No, it's going to be 25 years in May. I can't believe that.